In the American psyche, there's a map of dark places, towns whose names have been surgically detached from geography and fused forever to a crime. One of those names is West Memphis, Arkansas. It lies just across the Mississippi River from the larger, more famous Memphis, Tennessee. But in the spring of 1993, it was its own world, a blue-collar, Bible Belt town of 28,000 people, built on cotton fields and the interstate trucking industry. It was a place where everybody knew everybody, where kids rode their bikes until the streetlights came on, and where the deepest shadows were thought to be cast by the setting sun, not by the human heart. On Wednesday, May 5th, 1993, the sun set at 7:42 p.m. It was a warm, ordinary evening. At the home of Stevie Branch, his mother Pam Hobbs was waiting. Stevie was 8 years old. He was a good student, a Cub Scout with a neat uniform and a mischievous grin. He was supposed to be home by 4:30. He wasn't. Across town, Melissa Moore was also waiting. Her son, Michael, was 8 years old. He was the leader of his little group, smart and funny. He and Stevie were best friends, practically inseparable. He was also late. A few blocks away, Christopher Byers, also 8, was living with his mother and stepfather, John Mark and Melissa Byers. Chris was small for his age, an earnest kid who always seemed to be trying his best to keep up. He had left home that afternoon to play with Stevie and Michael. None of them had come home. The calls began around dusk, a daisy chain of parental worry. Pam called Melissa. Melissa called the Byers home. "Has he shown up there? Have you seen them?" The answer was always no. The shadows deepened. The familiar sounds of the neighborhood dogs barking, screen doors slamming began to sound hollow, alien. The quiet space where the sound of 3 boys on bicycles should have been grew into a deafening silence. The parents called the police. The response was what you might expect in any small town. On any given weeknight, they're boys. They're probably at a friend's house. They've lost track of time. Give them a little while longer, they'll turn up. But the parents knew. A mother knows the rhythm of her child's life. A father knows the rules. This wasn't just late. This was wrong. John Mark Byers, a man of intense, volatile emotions, didn't wait. He went out looking himself. He drove the streets of his neighborhood, his headlights cutting through the darkness, calling his stepson's name into the empty parks and silent schoolyards. The search had begun. It was small at first. A handful of frantic parents and worried neighbors, armed with flashlights and fear, combing the familiar landscape that had suddenly become strange territory. By morning, the sun rose on a town holding its breath. The West Memphis Police Department, now realizing this was no simple case of lost kids, officially opened a missing persons investigation. The search escalated. Volunteers, hundreds of them, gathered to help. They were mothers and fathers, factory workers and truck drivers, people who knew the families and people who didn't. They were united by a single, terrifying thought. It could have been my child. The search focused on the last place the boys were seen, near the blue beacon truck wash on the interstate, and it focused on the place they loved to play, a tangled patch of woods and creeks that bordered the highway. The kids called it Robin Hood Hills. It was a wilderness in miniature, a place for childhood adventures and secret forts. It was also dark, dense, and crisscrossed by muddy drainage ditches. The police effort was led by Inspector Gary Gitchell. He was a veteran cop, but his department was small, underfunded, and completely unprepared for a case of this magnitude. They were overwhelmed. The initial search was chaotic, disorganized. There was no grid, no formal command structure, just hundreds of well-meaning people walking through a potential crime scene. All day Thursday, they searched. The Arkansas sun beat down. The parents waited, suspended in an agony of hope and dread. They gave descriptions to the local news cameras that had begun to arrive. Stevie Branch, Blonde hair, blue eyes, wearing blue jeans and a white t-shirt. Michael Moore. Brown hair, brown eyes, wearing blue jeans and a Boy Scouts of America shirt. Christopher Byers. Brown hair, brown eyes, last seen wearing blue jeans and a dark shirt. 3 boys, 8 years old, who had vanished from the face of the earth. Hope began to fade with the daylight on that second day. The search was called off for the night, scheduled to resume in the morning. But just after 1:30 in the afternoon on Friday, May 7th, then 48 hours after the boys had disappeared, a police officer walking the banks of a shallow muddy creek inside Robin Hood Hills saw something in the water. A child's shoe. The officer, Sergeant Mike Allen, waded into the murky ditch. What he found there would not only end the search, but it would also shatter the soul of West Memphis and begin a story that would spiral into one of the most controversial and confounding criminal cases in American history. The 3 boys had been found. They were not lost. They had been taken.